Welcome to my first ever Q&A. I am feeling like a proper influencer. I've staged the background. This is my living room wallpaper. I have my notebook of questions and my tea at the ready. I'm on a squeaky stool. Apologies. This will be mostly raw, unedited. I'll maybe cut out breaks, like pauses. But apart from that, you're just going to get my usual rambly self. If you're new here, welcome. This is a weird video for you to jump right into, but get to know me. So I asked you guys, let's address the braids. I'm feeling fabulous. I just got these for my holiday. By the time this video releases, I'll be on my way to the holiday, so yay. Anyway, I asked you guys to ask me questions to do this Q&A so that I didn't have to clean my house. Procrastination at its finest. And I have a boatload of them. I was going to say a boat ton there, but corrected myself at the last minute. Also, I don't know if anybody else has had braids, but like, what do we do with them? They're in the way. Okay. I'm just going to read the questions off the paper. I didn't copy them all down like ad lib. Is that the term? I just copied them down, paraphrasing you guys. So you'll recognize if it's your question or not. And I'm not going to do them in any particular order. I think I might just do random ones. And I might not get to them all. There's also a couple in there that I'm not going to answer today, but I'll kind of explain why. So let's just jump right in. Somebody asked me if the house that I'm in is the new house. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think you're asking me, is my house the house that me and Danielle have been talking about wanting to get together? In that case, no. I've lived in this house for approximately 5 years. Could be 6 years. No. Yes, 5 years I've lived in this house. We moved in the middle of the 2 lockdowns during COVID because we had originally bought the house pre-COVID. Like it was in the middle of the deal. And then COVID hit and everything went on a standstill. And then just as the first lockdown lifted, the sale went through, we moved in, and then the other lockdown hit. So this isn't the new house. That is just an imaginary dream. I say imaginary. We are imagining it. We are trying to manifest it. We want it to happen. We want to eventually live in a big giant house together or live in 2 big houses on the same land together, that kind of thing. But we're not there yet, which is really sad because I've seen some land and I was like, oh, I wish we had £200,000 to buy it because it was perfect and it had planning permission for 2 4 to 5 bedroom houses, and I was like, this is ideal. It's just not the right time. Anyway, these answers are going to be a bit erratic. You know me, I ramble. So that was that question. Okay, I'm going to start with some simple questions, just throw it out there. So favorite game, it depends on what platform. If it is PlayStation game, then my favorite game is a game called Don't Starve Together, or simply Don't Starve. There's 2 versions. I originally started playing the Don't Starve version and then they brought out the multiple player one. So that's my favorite game, and it's kind of a survival game, but also it's just a really repetitive game. So you land on this island. It's 2D. I want to say it's 2D. You land on this island, you have to collect resources, build bases. There are bosses that you can fight. You can play with up to 6 people. I actually tend to mostly play on my own, or I will just jump in. Like, I'm a pretty good base builder, like early on in the game. So sometimes I'll just jump into somebody's game, build base within the first 10 days and then be like, you're welcome, goodbye. But most often I play with my 8-year-old son, Kai. So if it's a PlayStation game, that's my favourite game. If it's a game that you play on your phone, I play a game called Goods Master 3D or Goods Match or something like that. It's basically, you have shelves and you have to try and like match the items on the shelves to then for them to disappear. I'm not very good at explaining that one, but I'm on like level 300. I've played that consistently for about 2 years now. Once I find a game I like, I kind of stick with it. What? Oh yeah, so then if it's a card game, like just normal playing card game, then I'd probably say Gin Rummy, and I'm not sure if that's actually what it's called, but it's where you have to get like a set of 3 and a set of 4, I don't really know how to explain the game unless I was playing the game with you, which is impossible. So look it up. And then if you're talking about board game, then yeah, my favourite board game is Azul. And I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's a strategy game. It's a strategy game, and I play the Summer Pavilion version. And again, it's hard for me to explain without playing the game with you, but that's maybe one that I can do a video on. But I would need friends to play it with me. I'll need to call Danielle and be like, come and play this game, I'll teach you how, and then I'll teach you guys at the same time. So yeah, that's my favourite games. Favourite snack. Okay, if it's just like a snacky snack, then crisps. Like, I really like Doritos and Pringles and all of that kind of thing. Like, I'm very much a crisp person. But if it's like a snack, this one is annoying me. I'm going to have to tie it up. If it's like a snack that I make, then, I mean, technically it's not making. I really like pepper and hummus. That's like my favourite thing. Or pepper and dip. Raw peppers. That's my favourite snack. Most hated food. By the way, I've not like pre-planned answers to these. I've copied them down without, I glanced at a couple of them. So that's how I know which ones I'm not going to answer. But I didn't really prepare answers for the other questions, which is probably lack of planning, but also, meh. Most hated food, raw tomatoes. Like, I can eat tomatoes if they're in something, like cooked, like spaghetti, and that's all that comes to mind right now. But I do not like raw tomatoes or fried tomatoes or anything like that. Okay, let me kind of glance around at the questions. Okay, while we're on the topic of favourites, might as well. Favourite comfort food. So like actual food. That's a hard one. I really like Chinese food. What? Yeah, I'd say like if it was a comfort thing, I would definitely order Chinese. And I always get barbecue spare ribs, honey chili chicken with fried rice. But then sometimes I'll also get noodles or salt and pepper chips or like the crispy triangles, curry triangles. Love those. When I was pregnant with Madison, that's my oldest, I just lived on duck spring rolls and ice lollies. That's literally all I ate. Okay, favourite season is autumn. I want to say preferably the beginning of autumn because it's still warm, but actually my favourite part of the year is Halloween, and that's at the end of autumn. So just autumn in general. I love the colours of the trees. I love the crunchy leaves. I love that it's still warm, but getting to the darker nights so you can still be cozy in the house, because I'm a homebody. I don't like leaving my house. So yeah, autumn is where it's at. Favourite music very much depends on my mood. I have a very varied taste. So, but again, I just tend to listen to the ones that I know. So I grew up listening to Alanis Morissette and Tracy Chapman because that's what my mum listened to. Those are a couple of favourite artists. But then I went through a phase in my 20s where I started listening to like heavy rock and metal and stuff like that. So I really like Daughtry. He's not really heavy rock, but he's getting heavier. Like his latest music has been pretty good. So I really like Daughtry and Five Finger Death Punch. I went and seen them live in 2019 and oh my god, so good. Squeaky chair. I might cut out the tea breaks, haven't decided. But you know me, probably not. Okay. Some place you'd love to visit. There's a couple. I really want to go to Iceland to see the Northern Lights, like proper, like in the glass dome with them right on you, like full sky experience the Northern Lights from Iceland. But I also hate the cold, so might do that, might not. And San Francisco, simply because one of my favourite TV programmes, or like my ultimate favourite TV programme, is Charmed, which is about 3 witches and they live in San Francisco, and I just want to go there and experience San Francisco and the Golden Gate Bridge and all of that. Literally no other reason except I'm fangirling and I want to go there. I don't even think it was filmed in San Francisco. I feel like it was filmed in the UK, but I could be making that up. Okay, let's have a look. So when I first asked you guys if you had any questions for me, I was really worried that nobody would ask me any questions. So I said to my husband, go and just go on the post and ask me a question. Do you want to hear what he asked me? Do you prefer Galaxy or Cadbury? Now, he should know that I don't know the answer to this because I never know what one I'm eating. So whatever one makes the Mars bar or the Lion bar, that's the one that I like. If it's just chocolate, I don't know. I actually don't have a preference, but he loves chocolate. So he's always like, which one do you like? And I'm like, I have no idea which one I'm eating right now. So, but he just put the question up so that it would prompt other people to start asking questions because I was very nervous that nobody would ask any. Okay, salt and vinegar or salt and sauce? Neither. I don't really like salt. So salt and pepper. Salt and pepper, that's what I would go for. As in like the spicy chips from the Chinese, not actual salt and pepper. I don't know. I tend to have sauce. If I am going for chips at like the chippy, I'll maybe tell them to put a wee bit of salt and vinegar, but then I would have it with sauce. I don't really like dry foods on their own. I like having something to dip or something on it. Usually mayonnaise, but tomato sauce with chips. So yeah, kind of neither and both at the same time. How did you decide on your kids' names? Okay, this is an interesting. By the way, all my questions are going to have story time, just so you know. So Madison was originally, I chose Phoebe as the name because of Charmed again, and she was my favorite character at the time. However, my auntie was pregnant at the same time and she also loves Charmed, and she announced her baby name before I did, and her baby name was Phoebe. So I was like, well, I can't call Madison Phoebe now. So it was actually Madison's dad that chose her name, and it's from an anime character, Madison, from Card Captures, which I've never actually watched. I probably should since it's her namesake. But yeah, so that's where Madison's name came from. And then, so that was because he had named Madison, the agreement was that I would get to name the second child, which was Arthur. And so I was going to choose like Jonathan or Christopher or Alexander, like something long, because I just really liked long names. But also I was still kind of in my Twilight fangirl phase, so I was considering Jacob because I really liked the name. And then, so that was the agreement that I was supposed to name him. But then as we got closer to giving birth to Arthur, his dad said, oh, you know, my granddad is very ill and I don't think he has much longer. This will be his first grandchild, which wasn't true, by the way, I'm pretty sure. And then, so he was like, so can we just name him after my granddad? So we called him Arthur after his granddad, who then, I mean, like, I didn't want to wish like death on or illness on him, but he then did survive another 10 years. So I feel like I was a bit conned, you know, there wasn't actually anything wrong with them. It was just Arthur's dad's way of getting to name Arthur. But Arthur really suits the name. You know, when he was younger, he was such a wrinkly old granddaddy baby, and then now he's like, he's got glasses, he's geeky, he's great, and I couldn't imagine him being called anything else. So yes, I didn't get to name Madison or Arthur. Kai has a different baby daddy, and his baby daddy already had a daughter, and he'd chosen the daughter's name, I think. And so he had already, from when he was a child, had it in his head what he wanted to call his son. And I already had one of each. So I was just like, I actually don't mind what we call this one. Just go for it. You can name him. So he is also named after an anime character. He's named after Kai from Beyblade, which I have actually watched some of, so I know his namesake. So yeah, so he's named after Kai from Beyblade. So my first three children, didn't get to name any of them. If Kai had been a girl, I would have gotten to choose the name. And the name I had chosen was Avia or Avaya. I hadn't actually decided how I wanted to say it. I just knew how I wanted to spell it, which was Ava, but with an I in the middle. So A-V-I-A. Because it wasn't a common name and I liked unusual names. And so that's what I wanted to call him if he had been a girl. Obviously he wasn't a girl, so he became Kai. So then I got pregnant with Lily, who has a different baby daddy. That's my husband. So yeah, I'm not religious. I have 3 baby daddies. I had a rough start to my life. Okay, don't judge me. I'm very happy and settled with my husband, who is the dad to my youngest, and he treats all the children the same. And the other 3 do still see their dad. But yeah, just getting that out there now. So there's no, I mean, there's probably still confusion and judgment, but we're all friends here. Anyway, so Lily is my youngest and my husband's first child. And so if Lily had been a boy, we were going to call Alexander after, because first of all, I never got to call Arthur Alexander and I love the name. And also my husband Pete, his granddad was called Alexander and he was very close to his granddad. So that was going to be the name. But I was always planning on shortening it to Xander. Okay, so we'll get to that in a minute. So if she'd been a boy, that would have been her name. If she'd been a girl, I did want the name Avia. I mean, she was a girl, but the plan was to call her Avia. But then I had just held on to that name for so long that by the time I was filled with all these pregnancy hormones, I didn't love the name anymore. And so I was like, not so sure. So we started like looking at lists of names. Now, my husband remembers this very differently. He says that he did not come up with the name Lily, but I'm 100% sure that he did come up with the name Lily. And I just agreed and liked it. So we went with Lily. But also at the same time that we were thinking of names and coming up with names, I was reading one of the Cogheart books to my other children, and the main character was called Lily. And so I think it was just subconsciously like the world telling us like this is going to be the name. Sorry, the hand gestures. So that's how Lily got her name. Nobody's 100% sure if it was from the book, if it was from my husband, if it was from me, but I am. It was from him. He came up with it, I agreed to it, and then it happened to be in the book. That's the story and I'm sticking with it. So technically, I didn't actually name any of my children, which is fine. And then somebody asked, and this is kind of related, let me just find the actual question. How did you get a name Xander? Now, for anybody that doesn't know, Xander is our 3-year-old miniature poodle. Now, as you probably guessed, he's called Xander because I actually grieved a little bit when I found out that Lily was a girl and not a boy. Because first of all, in my experience, boys are easier, okay? But also, I just was so clinging to the name that I was a little disappointed that she was a girl at the time. I am so thankful that she's a girl now. Like, I have 2 of each. I wouldn't change her for the world. But we all know sometimes, we get gender grief when it's not the gender that we want in pregnancy, and that's okay. It's okay to grieve the life that you had pictured in your head. That is absolutely fine. And that's what happened to me. So I just needed a baby Alexander in my life. However, no chance am I having any more children. If Lily had been the first child, she would have been the last. Now that sounds horrible, but it's not because of her, it's because of everything I went through during the pregnancy. And my body, the doctors have told me, like, my body would not cope with another pregnancy. I wouldn't survive it. So yeah, if she'd been the first, she would have been the last because of the pregnancy. So I'm not having any more children. And so we were like, I still needed a baby Alexander in my life. And then my husband loves dogs. Like, he is a dog walker, but I'm very allergic to dogs. And so we were talking about, getting a hypoallergenic dog. And I'm very impulsive. So as soon as that was given as an option, boom, 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 all the research done, got the dog. But the thing that actually inspired it was one of my favourite YouTubers, Emily Norris. She got a dog and she made it look so cute and so easy. She crate trained, her dog was tiny. So we got Xander. I bought all the exact same stuff that Emily had. I had the crate, I had the bed, I even had the Lammy toy. Like, I just literally went on her Amazon wish list and bought all of the stuff that she had and got Xander and crate trained him and did the training. And he is such a good dog. However, he is very bad with food. So somebody had asked me in my living room, this is where we are, but I'm not turning the camera. It took me ages to get this angle. In my living room, we have a gate on the door, which originally was for when Lily was a baby to stop her crawling up the stairs because I can't remember the reason. I think we had a gate on the stairs as well, so I'm not sure why we had one in here. I think it was just trying to keep her in here when I was in here. I don't know. Anyway, we had a gate on the living room for the baby, but when we got Xander, we just left the gate on the living room, so he can't roam around the house like he could if we were here. But you have all seen my house, there's always food on the floor, and so he is really bad with food. He will go in bins, he will like steal stuff off bunkers. No idea how he does it, he's tiny. But yeah, so the gate is to keep him in the living room. He's no longer in a crate during the day or anything. Like when we first were crate training, he would stay in the crate during the day if we were out, but we had a dog walker come in and walk him. But that was his choice. Like he felt safer in the crate than in the big open living room because we had cameras and stuff for him. He could have come out, and then he gradually started coming out of the crate more often. So now we don't have the crate in the living room. He just goes in it at bedtime. But again, it's kind of open. So yeah, so that's how we got and named Xander, and that's why we have a gate on the living room door. Okay, let me just figure out. I feel like I've not talked about anything important yet, so let's do that. Okay, this one's going to hit a little heavy. I didn't want to do it right at the beginning because I thought it'll bring the tone of the video down, and I didn't want to do it right at the end because who wants to end on that kind of note? So this is very personal, very heavy, and I'm just going to give a couple of trigger warnings. It's going to involve abuse, alcoholism, I don't know what else, but so you can skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to listen to this stuff, but let's get personal. So I have previously mentioned that I have an alcoholic mother, and so somebody had questioned, do I still have a relationship with my mother now? So it's a tricky question to answer because I never really had a relationship with her. Don't get me wrong, like she wasn't a bad mum, at least to start with, but we never, it was a very resentful relationship that we had. So, but I'm a people pleaser, okay? So when I moved, my mum's in England, when I moved away to Scotland, I was the one that would text and call. I was the one that would go down to England for visits. I would send birthday presents, Mother's Day presents, Christmas presents, anniversary presents, and all of that. So I left home the day after I turned 18, and there's a bit of a story to that. I might get into that today, I might not. So I moved to Scotland the day after I turned 18, and I did all of that, like, you know, the visit and the call and the presents until my 21st. Now on my 21st, my mum and family were supposed to come to Scotland to have a birthday meal with me. Not only did that not happen, I didn't get a single birthday card from them. I didn't even get a phone call. And so that was kind of the moment that I was like, you know, like I'm not a materialistic person, but I need to feel like I'm getting effort back. And so at that point I was like, no, I don't send any more gifts. I mean, I say that I still will give gifts to my younger brothers, and also I'll still, you know, get like a framed photo of the kids or whatever and send that down to my mum at Christmas or her birthday or something. And I'll message on all the birthdays when I remember. There's a couple that I always forget. But it was when I hit 21 and I was just so heartbroken that literally nobody made the effort with me from my family in England, that I just kind of gave up on that. But I still went down and visited once or twice a year, sometimes more. I still phoned and tried to keep up, but the only time I ever really hear from my sister and my mum is when they want money. So yeah, that's the relationship that we have. It's definitely all give and no take. But I do still see her occasionally. So I've mentioned that my brother was recently removed from her care and that I was possibly going to be a kinship carer for him. Unfortunately, because of the distance, they didn't want to move him from England to Scotland, and that was the only reason he didn't come to me. So now he's with my sister who's in England. But he is more than welcome to come here at any time, and he knows that. You know, I wouldn't actually be surprised if when he, you know, hits adulthood, he comes to Scotland, because I've said to him, you know, come here, I'll help you get a job, I'll help you get a house, further education, whatever you want to do, I'll help you, just come here. Because the thing is, I want to get personal and tell you more, but also I worry that my family are going to watch these, and I don't want to hurt feelings. Like, there is so much that I could say, so much, but I also don't want to make anyone feel bad. But yeah, so I have a question about siblings. Okay, do you have siblings, and are you close to them? I have 6 siblings. Okay, on my mum's side, I have, okay, let me start over, because it's hard to say, right? When my mum and dad were together, they had me, and then they had my brother Royce a year after me. So me and Royce have the same mum and dad, okay, and there's a year between us. And then they broke up. So on my mum's side, I have a sister who's 3 years younger than me, Rebecca. I have a brother who's 10 years younger than me, that's Tommy. And then I have another brother, my youngest brother, who's only a year older than Madison. So he's 17 years younger than me? The maths could be wrong there. But yeah, and he's Kevin, and that was the younger brother. And then on my dad's side, I have a sister who I want to say is about 7 or 8 years younger than me. And then I have another brother who is a couple more years than that, younger than me. I don't actually know their ages very well. I'm terrible with that. But yeah, I am not close to any of my siblings. When Tommy was a baby, I was 10, he was born, and I basically raised him when I was living at home, because that's when things were really bad at home. And so it absolutely broke my heart to leave him behind when I moved out. And so one of the reasons that I want to help Kevin so much is because Tommy has kind of gone down the same route as the rest of my family, you know, alcohol, drugs, no job, no stability, poor mental health, all of that kind of thing. And it absolutely breaks my heart. And I don't want that to happen to Kevin, which was why I was pushing so hard to just get him out of that environment. Because yeah, my sister is a great person. I personally I get on with her in short amounts. I mean, anybody that has a sister that they're not close to, you know, it's a love-hate relationship. Yeah, she's a great person, and obviously she's took him in, but he's still surrounded by all those factors, even with her. So it's not ideal, and I really wish he'd come here, because I just want to get him away from that environment so that he can see that there's something different in life, you know. I always say I'm a little bit of a black sheep in my family, because half my family are alcoholics, half my family are drug addicts. There's maybe 3 or 4 of us in the middle who are neither. And I'm one of those ones, but not because of any particular reason. Like, there was no outside influence. I think, I want to say it was books, you know. I read so much, I seen that there was more to life than what I was living in. So I feel like that was my saviour. I'm not going to get into any more of that details right now, because it's bringing me down a little bit, and I feel like this is the kind of thing that would be easier for me to talk on a voiceover, because when I get emotional, it's hard for me to speak. And anybody that watched, so there's a video on Five Free Cleaning when I talk about the abuse that I suffered as a child. I mean, only a snippet of the abuse, but I do a voiceover for it. And at the time, I'd had some really bad news on a couple of different fronts, and I go into it in that video. But if you want to kind of get a little insight into what I went through as a child, please go and check out that video. It's called, I don't know, Tragic Abuse Story or something like that. You'll see it, you'll know what it is. Go and check that out, and it kind of goes into a little bit more detail without me having to rehash it. And then along the same lines of those questions, do I have a therapist? No. I used to have a therapist at the time of the incidents that were talked about in the other video, there was a court case a few years ago, just before I met my husband. So about six or 7 years ago, I was going through a court case about some stuff from my childhood. And at that time, up until that point, I hadn't really talked about it to anybody. I was kind of in denial a little bit. I'm very much, right? I've been through a lot. Now, if I dwell on that and think about it a lot, it's very hard to stay upbeat and positive and move on with my life. So I just kind of tuck it away and don't deal with it, which I know is not healthy, and I don't recommend anybody doing that, but do what works for you. And for me, moving forward is better than thinking about the past. And so I went to this therapist at the time because I had a little bit of a mental breakdown. I ended up having to leave my job and was not able to get out of bed and just broke down a little bit. I was having panic attacks, all of that kind of thing. So I went to see this therapist about those issues, and it was specified specialist. The therapist was for that particular issue that I was dealing with. But anytime I was going there, that isn't what I was talking about, because I just couldn't bring myself to talk about it. What I ended up talking about was how, my family are. And because at the time, they were always hitting me up for money, and I was getting abuse off of some of them. And then other people in my life were just bringing me down a lot. And I just was not in a good place in my life. And so anytime I went to the therapist, rather than talking about the issues in the past, I was just realising how crap the present was as well. And so it was making me feel worse. And so I kept going, and I got through the court case. And then I just stopped the therapy because it just wasn't for me. But I would like to try therapy again. And I think as part of the pain management clinic that I've been referred to, I'm going to be seeing a therapist as part of that. But I'm not sure if it'll be related to just pain or to my past or whatever. I would like to see a therapist again, but a different type of therapist. So the one that I went to see, it was more a case of, we sat down and she told me, talk. And so obviously I'm talking about the most recent things because those are the things on my mind and bothering me at the moment. I would rather go to a therapist that is more like, okay, we're going to talk about this today, and then bring up like a specific event or time of my life or feeling and talk me through that, rather than free for all, like just telling me to talk. I need a more guided session. So that's why I feel like therapy didn't work for me, and that's why I'd like to try again, but with a more structured. So like we'll maybe finish up on a session, and then the next week she's like, okay, this is where we got to, and this is what we're going to talk about now. That would help me to do that. So no, I don't currently see a therapist. Yes, I would like to in the future, but maybe not right now, because like I say, it bums me out. Okay, so let's move on to something a bit more upbeat. What is your favourite thing about living in Scotland besides your family and Danielle? Okay, so where I grew up in England was an old coal mining town. And so it's just all the houses, like when I was there, all the houses were identical. There wasn't much greenery. It was like a concrete jungle. It was just rows and rows of identical miners' houses. We were at the coast, so I could escape to the beach anytime I wanted, which was my favourite thing about living there. But from that, I would love coming to Scotland. I used to come to Scotland in the holidays and stuff to see family, and that was my favourite. It was so green. I love the scenery. Everything, it's just beautiful and it's fresh. And the people that live in my town are just like, oh, it's a hole, and but they're not talking about the area. They're talking about some of the people that bring the area down, and every area has those kind of people, but they're not seeing it from a perspective of an outsider's view. And even though I've lived here for 14 years, has it been 14 years? Yeah, even though nearly 15. So even though I've lived here for nearly 15 years, I still feel like I see it from an outsider's point of view, and it's green and it's beautiful and I love it. So that's one of my favourite things about Scotland. And then let's be honest, the other favourite thing is free education. I'm at university. I'm not paying to be at university because I'm a Scottish citizen at this point. I get free education. And if I was doing this degree in England, I would be in like thousands and thousands and thousands of debt right now. But as a Scottish person, I get free education, and that is a godsend. It's a weight. Like, I would not be able to be at university if it wasn't for that. So let's be real, that's one of my favourite things. Okay, I'm going to stop for tea for a second. We've gotten into some heavy issues. Also, I hope this Q&A is going okay. Like, I've not really watched any Q&As. I think I watched maybe 2. It's not a question, but my favourite Pokemon is Bulbasaur. Also, I'm drinking green tea because I can drink that when it gets colder, but a normal cup of tea, I only like it when it's just being poured. Okay. I'm trying not to like do this so then you get to see my like double chin, so I'm trying to like read gracefully, but it's not going well. Do you have any hobbies, and would you consider doing a cook with me video doing traditional or your favourite foods? Okay, so that's 2 questions, so which is fine. In terms of hobbies, yes, I love to read. I'm going to list the hobbies that I like to do, but that doesn't mean I necessarily do all of them at once or that I'm currently doing any of them, because actually right now I'm not doing any hobbies. But I love to read. I do creative writing as well, cross-stitch sewing, playing computer games, hiking, but that's not really a part of my life anymore. I went on a walk with Danielle. It was like 2/3 of a mile hike there, and then obviously I have to come back down. Going there wasn't too bad. You know, we took it nice and easy. It was fine. Coming back, oh my god, my legs were like shaking like this, trying to like go down the steps and the hill and stuff. And I had to cut out the footage of me climbing the tree because that was a whole thing. She was laughing at me the entire time. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, hiking used to be a hobby, not so much now, but I'm hoping to get back to that. I have more hobbies than this. Let me think. To be honest, right, I kind of get ideas in my head and then do them. So I take on projects like YouTube. Like I created a mum and toddler. I created a mum and toddler group. That's how I met all my friends. What else? I set up my partner's business. Like, I really like helping people with business stuff. So that's a hobby. I just give myself these projects and then that becomes the new hobby. Feel like there's more and I'm just forgetting. We'll go with that so far. In terms of the cooking, I could do a cook with me, but I'm really not that great at cook, and I'm so worried you're all going to judge how terrible I am. Like, I overcook everything because I'm so worried of getting food poisoning, but also all my favourite recipes are from YouTubers that I watch, so I'm not sure. I feel like I would just be copying and also not even doing it as well as they do it. So I could do a cook with me of my favourite foods and then tell you this is from such and such YouTuber. So if you don't want to watch me making balls of it, then go and watch their video where they actually do a good job. Yeah, it's an option. I mean, I do like to cook sometimes. I actually, the way that I prefer to do it is I like to cook like 10 meals at once and then freeze them and stuff, and then never have to cook again. Because when it comes to the evening, I'm not really an evening person. My husband often makes dinner, or we get takeaway, or it'll be something that I've done previously and then it just took out to defrost and cook that way. Oh, that's not comfy way to sit. Yeah, I feel like I've answered that question. I'm so excited to try different hairstyles with these. I got these done yesterday. Just a side note, got these done yesterday. I absolutely love them. I got them done in preparation for my holiday because it's a protective style, and my hair is like Monica from Friends when I go abroad, and I'm going abroad twice in the next couple of months, and these should hopefully, if I can look after them, last a couple of months. So the plan was to get these so I don't need to worry about my hair on holiday, but also I just love the colour. I'm just in love with it. But anyway, so I got them done yesterday, but they're not too tight. Like, I thought it was going to be so painful, and it wasn't. And so I was able to tie them up and have a silk scarf on and everything in bed to keep them protected. And And so now my head's not as tender. Like she said it would be really tender today, but it actually isn't even as tender as I thought it would be. But trying to get it up was such a thing. I'm like, I think they're a bit long. Like they're longer than I had thought they would be. I think if I was to get them done again, and I probably will because I love them, I'd maybe only go to here, this length, because they're just a little bit too long for me. But I'm excited to try different styles. That might be a video of me just trying different hairstyles, but I don't know. Okay, moving on. I think I've answered all the questions on this page. I don't know how long this video is going to be. I don't even know how long I've been talking. Okay, so kind of moving on from the hobbies, and I mentioned, you know, I like helping people with business. Somebody says, you seem to be very good at business. Why did you choose psychology over business studies? So here's the thing, I actually didn't. When I went to university, my intention was to get a psychology and management degree. So in my first 2 years, I took management as well. Ugh. But management was not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was business studies, you know, learning how to make a business, run a business, all of that kind of thing. And it was more learning how to manage people. And I'm just like, people. So I enjoyed it in the first year. So the stuff we learned about was interesting. And I did that alongside the psychology. In the second year, the first module that I did for it, I hated it. It was horrible. I was like, nope, this is not for me. And so I just went all in on the psychology. So originally, I always wanted to do psychology. But then, like I say, I helped my husband with his business. And in the last few years, I've tried a few different business things out. And I really do enjoy the business side of stuff. And like, I like making business plans and doing the research and looking for like grants and loans and stuff for people, and creating like the designs and setting up social media and stuff. Like I like it and I'm good at it. One thing that I was thinking is when I finish university, obviously I'm going to go all in on the YouTube, but it doesn't make enough money to be, like, at least right now, to be financially stable or free or whatever the term is. Like we're going to need more income in my household, because right now I get student finance, which obviously I won't get that when I'm not at university. So one thing I was thinking is I could set up a business where, you know, I help people set up their business, because I am very good at it. I feel like, and a lot of people come to me for business advice, even though I don't have any professional qualifications or training. I'm kind of self-taught, but I can build websites, I can design posters, I can tell you who your competitors are and tell you this is where you go to get the financing for that, and this is what you should be charging, and this is the insurance you need. Like I can do all of that, but I just don't know if people would pay for it. So maybe I don't know, I'll figure it out. I definitely want to work from home. But yeah, so the business side of stuff is a hobby. The reason I chose the psychology side of things is because that was always where my heart was at. I always wanted to do something with it. Eventually I thought I would like to go into teaching, but now I'm kind of thinking, you know, with the cleaning stuff, I kind of want to focus my psychology studies on all of that and kind of tie it in. Because if we can grow our Fight Free Cleaning channel big enough, and I have the psychology background, we can make real change. You know, we can be ambassadors for these people that need extra help. You know, our one-off free cleans, while they're great and they're helping people, they're not helping people long term. They need the extra support. They need the cleaners to come in and help them maintain it. You know, it doesn't get like that in a day, so it's not going to stay like that being cleaned in a day. And so I just feel like if I have this educational background in psychology and I'm out in the field, you know, cleaning for these people and speaking to these people, then I can, you know, petition the councils and the governments and the people and be like, look, this is what needs to happen because I am the expert in this field, you know. So that's kind of where I want to take the psychology stuff in the future. Okay, so while we're on the topic of psychology, I think Karen, I've not written the name down, so if that's wrong, I'm so sorry. You shared that you're currently learning assertiveness, conflict resolution, and anger management as someone who was also raised by alcoholic parents, and I wasn't sure if you meant to say undiagnosed or diagnosed, high functioning autistic. And you asked if I could talk about what I've learned through my psychology studies about those issues. Now, I'm not going to address that question today in this Q&A because that could literally be a whole video on its own, but also because I've not specifically learned about those issues. Now, the thing is, the way that my course is set up, it's very general. It's then up to me to go deep diving into specific topics. Now, I've not deep dived into any of those topics, and I'm going to for you so that I can then explain it in layman's terms. I don't even know if that's the way you say that, by the way, but it sounded right. So I will address this probably in a voiceover video. It won't be anytime soon, unfortunately, because I'm going on holiday. I'm not going to be sitting doing research, but over the summer I will look into that and make a video and explain it in more general terms for you. So I hope you understand why I'm not answering it right now. And then again, still on the psychology chat, if anybody's not interested in psychology, feel free again to skip ahead or leave. I mean, please don't leave, but just skip ahead. What is your favourite topic within psychology? So again, like I say, my course has been general. So the way they kind of split it up is, neuroscience, social psychology, behavioural, cognitive, perception. The word has gone out of my head, but evolutionary psychology, all of that kind of stuff. So within that, my favourite topic is cognition. So how we think and why do we think like that, but not in terms of like the chemicals and the neuroscience of why, but like it's kind of a combination of all, but my main focus is cognition. So attention and reasoning and memory and that kind of thing, that is my interest and focus. That's what I like the best in psychology. But there are others that I really enjoy. I really enjoy social psychology and behavioural. My least favourites, I just cannot get into the neuroscience stuff. Like my brain's not wired that way. I mean, I feel like it used to be. I was so good at maths and science when I was younger, but as I've grown, I'm moving away from that. I feel like it's easier to remember stuff when you can put it into context. I mean, that's actually a fact. You can remember stuff when it's in context. And it's harder for me to put the sciencey neuroscience stuff into context. It's just not interesting for me. So that's probably my least favourite. But also, I just don't like evolutionary. Like, I don't really like anything to do with animals. And that sounds really bad, but I mean, like the animal studies and stuff, I like it if it's explaining like the cognition side of things or the social side of things, like, Harlow's monkeys, which explain attachment and stuff like that. So I like the studies that do that, but people who are just, studying mice brains, not interested. And then you asked as well, what was my best essay based on? I actually don't know. I feel like my mind goes blank when people ask me questions like that. I would literally need to go through my laptop and look at the essays that I've written, which, by the way, have not been that many. Mostly my course has been, the coursework side of things for psychology has mostly been like writing lab reports and doing studies. And then the assessment side of things has been like exams. So it's not really been many essays. I think I've only maybe written 2, I want to say, essays. Although I will say, in a previous video, I talked about an assignment that I was doing called a pre-registration, which is kind of where you say what you're going to study and why you want to study that. And I got full marks on that. And that was about the music and how children can use music for learning. So like nursery rhymes and stuff. But all the studies have been, about like nursery rhymes and things. And that studies have shown, older children, it's not as effective because they move on to semantic learning, which is they learn more through meaning than through music. And so my proposal for my pre-registration was, maybe it's because the nursery rhymes don't have any meaning for them. If you use more meaningful music, like, pop music or music that they associate with good memories or whatever, then maybe linking like the stuff that they have to learn to that kind of music will show an improvement in memory and study. And I got full marks on that, and I really enjoyed learning about that. So let's just say that's my best essay, even though it's technically not an essay. Okay. Do I have any collections? Yes, I started collecting the cloth bound Penguins classics books. So I have 12 of those, if I counted that correctly. Might have been 13. 2 are a similar colour, it's hard to tell. 12 or 13 of those. And then I collect dream catchers. That's the only thing I really collect, is dream catchers. And first of all, it's because, you know, I've had on and off insomnia my whole life and a lot of bad dreams from all the trauma. But also, there used to be this shop that I would go in when I was younger, and it was like one of those shops that sell incense and crystals and witchy stuff and ornaments and dragons and all this kind of stuff. Not real dragons, dragon ornaments. And one of the things that they sold was dream catchers, and they displayed them on the ceiling. So you would walk in and the whole ceiling would be covered in dream catchers, and that was a dream of mine. I was just like, when I grow up, I'm going to have a room and the ceiling will be covered in dream catchers. Did not know how dusty they get. And no, I still have not cleaned the dream catchers. It is on the to-do list. So yeah, dream catchers, that's what I collect, and I have over 20 of them. I don't actually know how many I have. I feel like it could be 30 at this point. So yeah, that's what I collect. Okay, this question, I wasn't sure if you were confusing me with Beth to start with, okay? So for anybody that doesn't know, Beth is Feral Chadwife, and we're friends offline, as well as like on our YouTube channels. I found her on YouTube, but she just feels like a soul sister, and so every time she does a video and talks about something, I'm like, oh my god, you just described my life. So yeah, so I feel like I just have a strong connection to her. Anyway, the question was, have you watched The Last of Us, and do you believe we may someday succumb to a zombie fungus invasion? Now, the reason I thought this was related to Beth is because she always talks about zombies. And then the second part of this question was, are you following the mushroom poisoning trial of Aaron Patterson? Which again, following the trials of criminals and stuff, that's something Beth does. So that's why I wasn't sure if these questions were for me, but I'm going to answer them anyway. No, I haven't seen The Last of Us. I have played the game. Oh, at least the first few oh my god. The first few chapters of the game I have played. So really I haven't played the game very much. I haven't seen the movie. I know it's about zombies and a little girl and an older man. That's all I know. Do I believe we'll someday succumb to a zombie fungus? No. Genuinely don't think zombies will be the reason the world ends. I feel like it'll be like a nuclear explosion or something like that, and then we'll have to survive like post-nuclear explosion. I don't actually think it'll be zombies, but it's fun to go along. And you know, the zombies, when Beth's talking about the zombies, you know it's a metaphor, right? Like, a lot of natural disasters happen around her, and when she's talking about being prepared, you know, it's not just for the zombies. You know, if she's prepared for zombies, she's prepared for anything. And that's a good way to be, in my opinion. So I don't think we'll succumb to zombies. If we do, somebody asked, have I been allocated a room on one of Beth's ships to escape the zombie apocalypse? Yes, I have claim to the library, and I will fight anybody for it. But yeah, the only problem is my husband gets really bad motion sickness, so he would struggle being on a ship, so we might need to feed him to the zombies. And then, am I following the poisoning trial of Aaron Patterson? I wasn't until I seen that comment, and then I googled it, and so now I kind of am, but only, okay, when me and Danielle were walking through the woods, one of the reasons that we had to put music is because we were listening to videos about this trial and like discussing it, and so I kind of know what's going on, but I'm not really following it, if that makes sense. So I mean, we were just laughing our head off when they were saying, you know, she's tried 3 times to poison her husband. It's like, well then yeah, she's either a really bad cook or she did it. Like, what? Anyway, so kind of yes, I would like to know the outcome. If at the time this video is released, it's already been decided, I live in a bubble, okay? I will not know of the outcome until Danielle tells me. Okay, somebody asked me if I mentioned that because I've moved around a lot, so I'm getting a bit nasally. Let me take a drink. Also, I don't know how long a Q&A should be. I'm just kind of going through all the questions, to be honest. Anyway, I mentioned recently that a few years ago, I had to get rid of all my books because I had downsized my house and there wasn't space, and so I donated them all to the library. Somebody has asked if I remember some of the books that I threw out. I can try and write a list, but honestly, I'm one of those people that when I find an author, I feel like I've said this like in 5 different ways now in this video, but when I find somebody I like, I just latch onto them in terms of like, I just buy all their stuff. So if I find a musician I like, I just listen to their music. If I find a game that I like, I play it for years, that kind of thing. So it's the same with the books. When I find an author that I like, I tend to try and just buy all of their books. So a lot of the books that I had to get rid of were the books that I started buying when I was in my early teens. So a lot of it was young adult fiction. But just a couple of names. Leslie Pierce, obviously I still have her book, she was my favourite. But also Marianne Keyes. She's, I think, is an Irish author, and all her books were based in Ireland. And it was about I want to say the Welsh family, which is ironic since it's in Ireland. But anyway, or maybe it was in Wales. I don't know. I think it was in Ireland, and she was the mum was called like Mammy Welsh or something. Anyway, all of her books, each one was about a different member of the family. What's she called? I'm just gonna have to write it down because it's not coming to my mind. Cecilia Ahern, her books. She wrote some really good ones that they were like imaginary, but they felt real. So there was one called The Book of Tomorrow, and this girl found a book and it told her what was going to happen the next day and stuff. And then my favourite one of those was about an imaginary friend, and it was written as if this imaginary friend was a real person, and he would move from household to household depending on which children needed him at the time. It was just really beautifully written. And then there was like one about, where all the missing things go, so like all the socks, and they all went to this magical place. Anyway, her books were really good. And then, like the supernatural kind of stuff. Like, who was it who wrote The Secret Circle? L.J. Smith? No, was that her? L.J. Smith was one of the authors. I think she wrote The Vampire Diaries. That could be wrong though. There was a lot. I'll try and write them down. I'll try and remember and write them down for you. But that was just a few to throw out there. And Amanda Sue Heller, she wrote a lot of like detective novels, which were really good. I think we're getting to the end of the questions. This is a question that I get all of the time, so I just thought I'd address it. Would cotton gloves or gloves in general help when cleaning with with my eczema? No, and I have addressed this a couple of times. One of the main problems with my eczema is just when my hands get wet. So even when I wear gloves, my hands then sweat, which then makes my eczema worse. So that's a big problem. So I was cleaning at a house on Sunday with Danielle, and my eczema wasn't that bad. I was wearing the gloves because we were using chemicals and the houses are dirty. And by the end of it, my hand was infected because it started bubbling. The skin, I don't know what it's called when it does that, but yeah, so wearing gloves does not help me. Wearing cotton gloves does not help me. There's no help. There's no help. Somebody says, why do I have different levels of memberships? So first of all, I have 3 membership levels, in case you don't know. This isn't a plug, this is just kind of to explain, and there are different prices. The dog might stop barking because my husband's just about to walk through the door. There are 3 different prices, 99 pence, 1.99 and 2.99. The reason I do it like that is so that there's a affordable membership level for everybody. Some people want to support me monetarily, which I'm really grateful for, and they don't really expect anything in return, which is even better. So 99 pence is where you're at, and then the 2.99 and then the 1.99. The reason that I have the different levels is because the way that YouTube works, eventually I want to be able to give a lot back to the people who are supporting me as members. Right now, I'm just doing what I can do. But eventually, there'll be merchandise that you'll get discounts on. There'll be, stickers and early release videos and all of this stuff. But if I set my prices now and then come up with all that stuff in the future, I would basically, like if I just had one membership level, it's then harder to change it later and to change the pricing and all of that kind of stuff. So I just went in right at the beginning and made the levels at those prices, and then I'll never change those prices. Those prices will be the same forever, but I'll just keep giving you more stuff for the money. So that's why I have the 3 different levels. And then I think we're getting to the last. So I mentioned in a 5-free cleaning video that me and Danielle used to have a cleaning business. So with doing the free cleaning, we realised that it wasn't enough for people and people needed a regular cleaner. So we started a cleaning business in October last year. It launched, where we hired employees. Sorry, my husband came in, so I might have to edit some of that out because Xander got really noisy and now he's looking for some attention. Anyway, we're on to the last 2 questions. So we started a cleaning business where we hired employees and we advertised at pretty low prices. And a lot of cleaning companies, they expect everything to be picked up before they'll go in and clean. So ours was different because it was aimed at the people who can't even manage that. One day it was a very personalized service. One day they might need you to come in and wash their dishes, another day they might need you to come in and declutter their kids' toys, that kind of thing. And so we started it, and there was such a demand for it. It went really well in terms of getting the business, but getting the staff was so stressful, so annoying. We would pay for childcare to book interviews and people wouldn't turn up, or we would schedule people and then they would they would phone in sick. And it was just a week before Christmas, one of our employees quit and took 5 of the clients with her, and it was just the final straw. So the business only lasted 2 months, and we just decided it's not the right time for us. I was trying to do my exams, so Danielle was having to do all the admin stuff for the business, and she's just she's got a 1-year-old, so it was just too much. And we were still doing our free cleaning on top of it, so it was quick enough for me to set it up. That's what I mean, I'm really good at doing that, but the day-to-day managing of it was not great. I think if we were to do it again, we would have 10 employees lined up before even launching the business, because like I say, getting those clients, not a problem. There is such a demand for that type of service, a personalised cleaning / housekeeping service. Nobody did it the way that we do it. Charlene from Charlene and Clean, who I've mentioned a couple of times, she was one of our employees that worked for us for that business, and we helped her set up on her own, and so now she's kind of running a similar type of business. But yeah, it's maybe something that we'll revisit in future. And actually the woman who did my braids was talking about wanting to start a cleaning business, and so I gave her loads of advice, and she said, if me and Danielle ever get back up and running and we need a business partner, I'll let her know, because she wants in on it, which was really fun. But yeah, so that's what happened to the business. Without going into all the nitty-gritty details, it was too stressful, especially exam season, run up to Christmas. Stressful. And we don't like letting people down. When people are phoning in sick, it's we personally can't go and cover the sickness. So maybe in the future, when we do it, we'll be in a position where I've not got uni, Danielle's not got her children, they're in childcare, so if somebody calls in sick, one of us can go and cover the shift. And then finally, actually no, I'm gonna leave the second half of those questions, the one that you asked, and leave that for the 5 free cleaning channel, because it's related to the free cleans, and so it just makes sense to leave it for that. So, thank you very much for joining me on this Q&A. It's probably been a bit long and rambly, but that's kind of my style, as you all know. I hope it's come across okay. It's been really weird, staring at a camera and not having any interaction back. So I hope you've liked this format. I've answered pretty much all of the questions. There's a couple that I've not answered, and I will probably cover them in voiceovers. Feel free to keep asking me questions. I can do another Q&A. I can answer them on voiceovers. We can see what works. But thanks for getting to know me, and I really do appreciate everybody that is interested in my life and who is supporting me and watching me clean my house. So bye.